because of what you mean to May. And it has to be May. It was very
absolutely.
like.
It's the only way you can say it.
Yeah. You know, the drum, okay, so the drummer in that band, his name is Matt Miller. He's married, he's got kids. I think he still lives in California. The bass player in that band was named Jeff Montalvo. Jeff now goes by Seven Lions and is a huge DJ.
Wow.
Like in the EDM world. He's like gigantic.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I didn't know that being a musician would mean that I had to grow as a human being so damn much. You know?
Yeah.
I thought this was gonna be way easier. Like I thought the music part was gonna be hard. That part, yeah. But it's like, no, it's like the hardest part is like having to be honest with yourself and about your shortcomings and how you can do better and like working to do better, taking those steps, you know? Because it's one thing to just be like, okay, I fucked up. Or like, oh, I was an asshole. It's a whole other thing to be like, okay, what do I need to do to like get to the root of this and be a better person for all the people that are depending on me, be it my family, be it the bandmates, be it the fans.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Wow. Fresh off of winning Song of the Year from the Austin Music Awards, today's guest, Jonathan Horstmann, is the lead vocalist of Urban Heat. He sat down with us a couple of days before their most recent tour kicked off to get real about his journey and all of the life lessons learned along the way to build the man and the artist that he is today. I can't wait for you to get to know him or get to know him a little better in today's conversation. Be sure to like and subscribe so we can continue to bring more stories to you just like these. And here's Jonathan. As we're sitting here in this moment, there's a ton of activity for you guys right now. We're a couple weeks removed from winning Single of the Year, right? Austin Music Awards named you guys. It was Have You Ever? It was the Song of the Year. You guys were fresh off South by, done that a few different times now. Been at ACL before. You're working on your second album, about to go on tour. So there's a lot of different pieces happening, a lot of traction picking up for you guys. So how does that feel right now? Picking up some recognition, some of these opportunities that are coming?
How did you put it? You said there's a lot of activity around it right now?
Yeah.
It feels like that. It feels like we're in the eye of the storm.
Okay.
And it's just like, you know?
I get that.
But
somehow.
But here I am.
In your world, I'm like, that makes sense.
Here I am, like, I'm gonna take a nap after this.
And are you able to pause and appreciate it all, any of what's happening? Or is it like, man, I need a nap so often that it's just on to the next thing all the time?
I am able to pause and appreciate because of my children. They kind of force me to. It's like you're operating in such a fast mode so much of the time, and your children need a different mode from you, and so it kind of forces you to stop and breathe and be patient. And I try to, you know, knowing that I'm about to go back on the road, I try to just soak in every instant with them. And so I'm not necessarily thinking about my appreciation for the like modest success that we've had lately, but more just appreciating life, being alive, and the people around me. And I think that's probably the point, you know?
Yeah, that's powerful. I like how you're like, I can, because my kids. That's a cool connection piece, is like one of the insights into perspective, you know? Perspective.
I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for a little 2-year-old and 4-year-old tyrant forcing me to slow down, I wouldn't.
I have no choice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you talked about years and years of, you know, sewing, of preparing. So let's rewind for a second, because one of the cool things about this format is we're trying to get to know the person, you know, behind what everybody already knows you for, if you will.
Beware.
So, hey, we're excited. So, tell me about Jonathan as a kid. What were you like growing up? Where did you grow up?
Super hyperactive, very artistic. I grew up in, spent from 1 to 5, I was in Miami, Florida, and then we were in Southern California from 5 through I guess through my adolescence.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just really hyperactive. I learned piano when I was 5. I was taking piano lessons. Then I went to trombone and percussion, violin. By the time I wanted to learn guitar, my dad was overpaying for lessons. So that one I had to teach myself.
Could imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you, was that proactive? Like, were you the one interested in all those? Were parents saying, hey, we want you to be involved in something? Or was there just a love for music?
I think I had to, if I remember correctly, I had to either be involved in a sport or learning an instrument at all times. That was just kind of a non-negotiable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think I remember a story, maybe an expulsion or 2 or something like that.
Yeah, so in 9th grade, I was asked to leave before I got expelled. I had a real problem with authority.
Okay.
With being told what to do. Our school, the private like religious academy that I was at, they practiced like corporal punishment. So after you got a certain number of write-ups, you just automatically started getting spankings for any infraction. And that started with me like in 5th grade was when I really started having problems with that. And I just was defiant. I did not want to give anyone the satisfaction of like letting that work on me. I would do fake homework so I could present it to my parents and say that I had my homework done, knowing full well my homework was not done, knowing that the next day I would get a spanking. I just like was not going to, I don't know, man. I was just a little. So I got really into, I discovered punk through some friends who had like transferred to the school, through like New Kids, you know, and we got really into punk rock and kind of got into like the anti-war movement, and my art kind of surrounded was a lot of it was around like the anti-war movement and just punk rock in general. And so I was asked twice to leave that school. The first time I was asked to leave, and I went to a smaller Christian school, which that one closed, so I went back to the first Christian school, and then I was expelled in the middle of 10th grade. And that was actually for a piece of art that I had done. Yeah, it wasn't like horrible. There was, I mean, it was me and my friends sitting. It was our silhouettes on a cliff overlooking New York City, and we were supposed to use colors to express emotion. So where me and my friends were, it was all purple and blue and like Van Gogh Starry Night, you know, and then New York City was red and fiery, and you know, you could see the silhouette of the Statue of Liberty. And in retrospect, it kind of looked like we had set the city on fire. However, I think I was allowed to, I don't think I was really allowed to even explain what it was. I think they were just so done with me at that point, you know? They were just done. And I get it. I mean, I was done with them, you know? And it broke my parents' hearts because they really didn't want me to go to you know, public school. That was something that was really important to my father, was keeping me in you know, surrounded by religion and the church, and not having that horrible public schooling. Yeah.
Which is actually part of the reason it is, you know, your interest, you said punk, is you, as I think you said as a kid, had a very specific like TV music you could watch was super limited. Yeah,
so
right?
I wasn't able to listen to anything pretty much but church hymns. Anything that had like a drum beat was considered, like drums were considered of the devil. Distorted guitar was considered of the devil. I wasn't allowed to watch anything with black and white movies because my dad thought that once color came around, that Hollywood just went to trash.
Wow.
So, and there's some like gnarly black and white movies. Like I would watch Angels with Dirty Faces like constantly. Like there's some violent black and white, but you know,
the color was the line.
Yeah. So I would wait until my parents were asleep, and then I had a little FM radio. And so I'd wait till they were asleep and then listen to the radio on my headphones, and then teach myself the guitar lines.
That's amazing. I love that. That's what, you know, being rebellious was. Is I got my FM radio out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was in high school too. I think that you said your first kind of band got together with friends, right? Was that the timeline?
I think so. I think we played like a high school assembly. We played an original. The first song that I remember them playing. So the band was called Simple People.
Okay.
And It's All Right was the first song that it was, I wish I could say what you mean to me. I wish you could know how I feel about you. It's all right, the stupid things we do.
I love that you're like, I think
it's
so.
It's all right, because of what this means to you. It's all right, the stupid things we say. It's all right, because of what you mean to me. It has to be May. It was very
absolutely.
like...
It's the only way you can say it.
Yeah. You know, the drum... Okay, so the drummer in that band, his name is Matt Miller.
Uh-huh.
He's married, he's got kids. I think he still lives in California. The bass player in that band was named Jeff Montalvo. Jeff now goes by Seven Lions and is a huge DJ.
Wow.
Like in the EDM world. He's like gigantic.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, tell me about life after high school then. What was the next step in your music journey?
Life after high school was a lot of me pushing the absolute limits of my body as far as like substances and just like lifestyle. I started playing in bands that were playing in bars before I was 21 and getting hooked up with drinks and stuff. And it just led to not the best, not the, you know, I just had to push myself. I thought I was going to be part of the 27 Club, like truly. My heroes had all burned out young, and I had every intention of that being me. Luckily, that wasn't the case because if it had happened, the only thing you'd have to remember me by was, it's all right.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. That would have been the legacy. That's a better legacy than some, man.
Yeah.
Well, for somebody, you know, not in the culture, like, just explain what, like, all goes into that. Is it keeping up with the crowd? Is it the amount of activity? Is it just, like, the prevalence of substances around? Like, what leads to, like, man, this is just what I expect to be the trajectory of somebody in the field?
Okay, so one, your job a lot of times as a musician in a scene is to sell drinks, to get bodies in the door so the bar makes money. Your compensation is in drinks. And if you do get paid some cash, you end up spending it on drinks. You're also, if you're young and impressionable, a lot of the bands and the artists that you look up to, if you're like 21, dude who's 28, who's like playing in like what you consider a successful band, like you're like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
That guy's cool, and that guy's got a drug problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's also, I think that a lot of artists and creatives in general, I think the way that our minds work, we end up more susceptible to filling some of the gaps, some of the emptiness with substances. I think everybody in modern society struggles with how to feel whole in a society, in a system that is designed to profit off of you not feeling whole. And so, and I think that's very true for artists.
And I think the way you described it is like, this is essentially everyone you knew around you too, right? I mean, this is the culture that you're in.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
And then anybody who like didn't, you kind of like gravitate towards people who have a similar worldview as your own, so that you don't have to really question yourself,
Yeah, and I think if I'm remembering the timeline right, it's Austin where really a lot of that came to a head for you, right? Where the lifestyle kind of caught up and you were like, this has to change. Tell me how you got to Austin. That was an interesting story.
Yeah. My girlfriend at the time, we wanted to get out of Santa Barbara. We moved to Seattle. Wasn't working in Seattle. We went there in the winter. It's a bad time to move to Seattle. We moved back to Santa Barbara. She took a trip to Hawaii and was like, I think I'm gonna stay. I was like, do you want me to go to Hawaii? She's like, no. I think I'm going to stay.
Okay.
I said,
That's
okay.
one way to have that conversation. Yeah.
Some friends got off tour and had said that Austin was really cool. And they're like, you guys, we're going to move out there. You guys should come too. I was playing with a band at the time, and everybody, for some reason, nobody had enough attachments to say like, no, I want to stay. So everyone and their partners and pets and everything like all moved out to Austin together. We got to South Austin and asked our friend who was living there, who's kind of like the anchor point for everyone coming, like what's a good place for us to where's a cool spot to live, where are the cool like neighborhoods, stuff like that. And the guy who had said like, let's all move out here was like, oh, I'd never been to Austin. I just heard it was really cool while we were on tour.
Yeah.
So we, like 15 of us moved out here because of, and that goes, I guess, that says something about Austin that, 16, 17 years ago that like touring musicians had such good things to say about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that though. Somebody said, I heard it's a cool city and we've all uprooted and gone.
Yeah. Truth be told, at that time, I would have moved anywhere.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how did things escalate once you got here to Austin then?
So I found myself, I needed a change. I was just getting in too much trouble. So I moved back to California. That's when I started using heroin, that's a great time. When you need a change, if you want to mix things up, throw some black tar heroin in the mix. That'll switch things up. Yeah. So I was a functioning heroin addict for a little bit. I was bartending. I lived in the city lived in the town that I went to high school. Like 6 years after graduating high school, I was moved back into my hometown and started bartending and using heroin. I was a real winner. And I knew I had to get clean. I had always wanted, it's gonna sound weird, I'd always wanted to try heroin. It had always been on my, maybe it doesn't sound weird because I thought I was gonna die at 27.
Sure.
So it was on the list. But then I found like, hey, I have a daily heroin habit. That wasn't on the list,
Mm-hmm.
So rather than go to rehab, because I was pretty sure that if I went to rehab, I would just meet somebody that I could relapse with. And I found a reforestation project, like a volunteer project in India, which looked really cool. It was like all these Western people like planting trees and like meditating together under a tent. It was called Sadhana Forest. I was like, yes, I want to do that. I looked up the prices and it was like very expensive. It's like, I don't know if I can do that. But they had a sister project that was in Haiti.
Right. And
I was like, Haiti sounds cheap. Haiti is cheap. My 3 months in Haiti, flight, all supplies, everything included, was going to be cheaper than 3 months rent to stay like in California.
Yeah.
So I got all the supplies and I went to the Dominican, started getting, I detoxed in Haiti. I got to our project. There was no building there. There were 3 other volunteers. We were sleeping in tents. It was just after an election. So the first night I was in my tent, I'm hearing like automatic gunfire. And I'm like, this is my life now. I also wanted to do something that really scared me, that I didn't feel like I could do.
Yeah.
It was like people afraid of snakes buying a snake.
Yeah.
Although this was like much more drastic than detoxing alone without anybody knowing that I was detoxing.
I was going to say, that's not why anybody else is there, right? Like you chose this project.
No.
Right. This is not what the purpose is.
They're there to like do like spiritual journey.
Exactly. And you're just like, I want to get out and be in a place where I'm not going to.
I was on my spiritual journey. Yeah. I was just coming at it from a very different direction,
Right.
Yeah. So while I was in Haiti, I got really into meditation and like oming and like vibration to like help with my like no mind like part of meditation. And that actually, when I got back to the States, when I started playing with synthesizers, that was something that really kind of translated that vibration, that like healing vibration in the synths. And that's something that after one of our shows during South by, somebody had said like, I don't know why, but your music feels like it's healing in some way. And And I kind of shared with him like, well, you know, it's gonna sound woo-woo, but there's an intention in that. Like I know there's vibration has power, and that's something like when I'm writing and when we're performing, there's an intention to bring something more than just like an entertaining experience, to bring something it's supposed to be transcendent. And that's also like, just a good show is supposed to be like that. You know, you're supposed to feel, when you walk away from something, you're supposed to feel like, not like you just witnessed something special, but like a part of you just changed, you know?
Yeah.
Like you saw something that changed you. Like I want to facilitate that through our performances.
Wow. Well, I think it's powerful just in the connection that, I don't want to speak for you, but I would imagine those 3 months are 3 of the most difficult, you know, of your life, like an incredibly difficult experience, and out of that, you know, now has a direct connection to a change in your path in your career. Like that is, to me, just listening to those pieces together and getting to see in hindsight is like really powerful.
That was, you're not speaking for me. That was by far likely the hardest period of time in my life. Likely.
And it worked, right? I mean, like you're like kind of unconventional. I'm gonna go detox. Like
Yeah, with the caveat, I have to say with the caveat, I do not endorse people forsaking medical professionals and. Yeah,
that's a good disclaimer. I appreciate that.
I don't endorse anyone doing anything that I have ever done except for sobriety. I'll endorse the hell out of sobriety. Yeah. Sobriety is a really good decision.
That's awesome.
Anything else, don't. Do as I say, not as I do.
Well, how long after that, so the origins of Urban Heat, when did that start to together?
Okay, so yeah. God, there's no way that you're gonna. I'm sorry, there's no way you're cutting this down in a cohesive way. Okay, so I got back to the States from Haiti. I had spent a fourth of the year not inside a house. When I got back, I visited my sister in LA. I turned on her faucet. I was shocked and horrified by how much water came out. Like how much water pressure there was. Yeah. Because we had to go to a well for our water. We were going to a well to help people in the village with water. Water was like a real, it was a thought. It wasn't just a there sort of thing. And it dawned on me, I was like, how many faucets are in this apartment? How many apartments are in this building? How many, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I was just thinking about that in the whole United States, and I was just like, oh, my God. So I didn't want to, my answer to that was, I didn't want to live underneath a roof for the remainder of the year. I was like, I've done a quarter of the year. I want to live outside for at least the rest of the year. And so that led me to a guy, John Van Dusen Edwards, who was living in Austin. So roundabout way, I started yoga teacher training, blah, blah, blah. I started teaching Kundalini yoga. I started doing, like, I got really into this whole vibration thing, you know? I go fully into things when I get into them. So I was like leading kirtan, this singing and chanting, and we do this thing in like Barton Springs under full moons, and we had like this group, and I would just like do like pay as you go sort of things. It was just like my full-time job. I was just like this yogi teacher music guy. And I lived in a tent in my friend John's yard, and we started a nonprofit together called the Food is Free Project, which is still going strong. The idea was to teach people how to teach neighborhoods together, get all these people who don't know each other out for this like kind of block party training thing where we would teach them how to make low maintenance garden beds using salvaged materials. And the idea was that everybody would have different produce in their garden beds so that they would be able to share and barter with each other. So it was like this way of strengthening community, just like one street at a time, but also thinking about how we can be non-reliant on a larger system.
Wow, that's so cool.
So that kind of led to John and I then started a band together that was also like this very positive sort of music thing. And then I joined a second project called Blaxploitation. So the first band was like folk rock kind of. We we had like a cellist and a violinist, and it was very like arcade fiery, very anthemic. And then the other side of me played in Blaxploitation, which was an all-black sort of electro-punk band that was all like very like anti-police violence and bringing attention to Black Death in the United States. At one point, I was just so angry. I had a falling out with everybody from Food is Free. I was just so filled with rage as things politically in our country were just really coming to a head and more people becoming aware of what it meant to be a Black person in America. And that sort of like being out there all the time, that I started doing Blaxploitation full time. And then we kind of got to a point where, and I was still, so I wasn't using heroin, but I was still drinking a lot. I was still using other drugs. And we got to travel with that and stuff. And while that was still happening, towards the end of that project, I met my wife and we got pregnant and my first daughter was born. And when Tuesday was born, everything became very clear and very murky at the same time. Because one, there was clarity on, I mean, kids are they're just walking paradoxes, right? It's like super clear, also super murky. Because like one, it's like, okay, my entire life is about you now. Yeah. None of the rest of this matters. Also, I have these goals. Yeah. And I want you to be able to see your dad reach his goals. Oh, yeah. So, it was sort of like, I need to cut all the fat. Anything that isn't serving me, anything, and I had this huge thing about anybody who was in my circle, I wanted to be able to trust with my newborn. We were all, that band's camp at that point, we were all substance abusing. Everybody's sober now, by the way, I will say that, yeah. Wow. But at that time, I left the project. I also was kind of like, I couldn't do this thing about like singing about Black pain to mostly white audiences who were like being entertained and like jamming along was just, it was less than unfulfilling. It was like re-traumatizing. It just got weird and I just didn't want to do it. And so I left and started making synth music in my headphones, started messing with sample-based production because it's something that I could do. I'm always writing, so, but it was something that I could do while my wife and my baby slept. So I was able to be in the next room and do stuff in my headphones versus like playing guitar. Yeah, makes sense. So that's really where sort of the synth sort of thing came from, was starting to do these like kind of synthy sound experiments with modular and stuff because of that like vibration thing, just like really loving like just zoning out to stuff. But then also loving the way that those analog synths sound with like analog drum machines or sample-based drum machines, but all kind of that late 70s, early 80s sort of sounds because they just work so well together. And then when my daughter was 8 months old, that's when I became sober. And I think that sobriety, probably that extra space that was left got filled with what became Urban Heat.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's really powerful though. That's cool. Yeah, so you have, that is the starting point, like that extra inspiration moment, connection. And from there, did you draw in like people that you already had connections with to fill out the rest of that band? How did the rest of the group?
Yeah, so like there were other folks that we kind of played around with before landing with like Kevin and Pax. But Kevin and Pax both had been in bands kind of adjacent. There was this scene, I mean, the scene is like it now, but I can't totally speak to it because my experience is different this year than it was, 10 years ago. But 10 years ago, there was, it's kind of like the same bands kind of always played the same kind of shows together and, you make friends. And I had known Pax for a while. We were in a bike gang together. And Hellcats for life. And we had just always wanted to sort of play together. It would sort of be like a super group if everybody hadn't kind of like quit their other projects. Okay. But we kind of all found ourselves without bands at the time, and it just kind of worked. And I never wanted it to be like a solo project, to do it by myself. I didn't want to like hit play and perform. I've always, stage-wise, I've always felt like that. I needed that energy to bounce off of other people.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. When was that, the timeline-wise? Just what year did you guys form?
2019.
2019.
So that like 6 months before the pandemic.
Okay.
Was when we did like our first show.
Okay. And then it was, okay, so your first like single, or the EP would have released then in
The EP released last year, 2022.
Just last year. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so we
you guys
started,
have been performing and then,
yeah,
okay,
the
cool.
end of 2019, in December of 2019, we released our first single called Stay.
Okay.
And then quarantined in March of 2020.
Right.
And then That Gun in Your Hand was our second release. And that was sometime around when quarantine happened.
Okay.
But we saw a big spike in listenership. Something happened with That Gun in Your Hand where that was my first feeling of there's something here that could be bigger than what we've done before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I was gonna ask that about like, have you ever, like, do you have a pre kind of recognition at all? Like, this is gonna catch on, audiences are gonna connect with this one, or does it surprise you a little bit, like what people ultimately jump on?
Okay, so I always we knew that Have You Ever Slapped? You know, it was like, this is a good one. I can't wait to release this one, you know? And then the way that it was produced, it just all worked. But I didn't know that folks would connect with it lyrically the way that they did.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I put it on, so we released that in like May, I think, of 2022. And we'd had a TikTok for maybe 4 months and had maybe 100 followers because I still don't know how to TikTok. And I was like, well, we should put it out. It had been out for a week, and I was like, I should put a clip out. So it was like 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, I put the clip out. The next day, I'm at Target, and I got a phone call from Matt Ott, because we were up for a Black Fret grant. I got a phone call from him letting me know that we have been selected for one of the Black Fret grants.
Yeah.
I was like, this is awesome. This is great. So I'm like riding high from that. I come home, and I don't think I even had notifications from TikTok like on my phone. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it wasn't until I was like at home then like checking that I was like, oh, we went from like 100 followers to like 3,000 followers.
Yeah.
And that's a big jump for overnight.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it's still.
Yeah.
So then it was just like kind of just watching it happen and then like just deep diving into the world of TikTok at that point to be like, well, who are the other musicians that are doing things in here? And like, what is this sort of space? And trying to figure that out. There are people who have huge TikTok followings who like can't sell 50 tickets to a show, you know? So it's like, it's about spinning all these plates, having everything in the fire because you can't really ignore one part of it. And you just kind of like, it's like, what's like being Octomom, sort of, you know?
Explain that connection for me.
Okay. It's like having like 8 children at once.
Yeah.
Because you just like, there's like all these mouths to feed. You have your TikTok mouth to feed, your Instagram mouth to feed.
I like that.
Your live show, your
I'm
your record,
now.
your relationship with your band, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your management. You know what I mean? It's all built on relationships, and at the end of the day, it's the relationship with the fans the fans are the ones that like the only reason that I'm here talking to you, that you found my story interesting enough to like want to talk to me is because there's a contingency of people who have connected with this in such a way that they've wanted to be loud about it and share it.
Yeah.
And like buy tickets to go see it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's the relationship with those people.
Yeah.
Those lovely, beautiful, wild, out of their minds, but lovely people.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And our fans know they cray.
Yeah.
They know.
Well, I think for you in particular, though, like one of the things that, you know, probably has a staying power is like, it's not just a sound, but you're an incredible performer too, that people would want to see you in person and experience that, right? Have you always like had the performance like edge? Is that something you've had to like work on and develop, or are you just both talented musically and you have because not everybody has both of those, you know?
Right. I think performance-wise, I write these songs to be performed. Like when I'm writing, I'm thinking about the performance. I'm thinking about the drama, you know? I love drama, you know? Yeah. I want to allow myself the space to go somewhere, to experiment with something that you don't get to do every day. You know, you don't get to stand on a stage in front of people who have come to be entertained. You know what I mean? That in itself is just a very specific sort of thing. And I feel like if folks are going to give us their time, their energy, their money to come to see the thing live, like, one, I want to put on a good show for them, but it's also like, I'm performing, but I don't want it to be performative. Because unless I'm having a transformative, like transcendent experience on that stage, that the crowd's not going to have that transcendent experience, and that's the point.
Wow,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's fun too. Like as this has progressed and the sort of like the moves have kind of evolved and things, it's fun you can take a step back and sort of watch yourself and kind of laugh about it, because you're like, I'll watch videos that people have taken, but like with the sound off, right? Because I'll get home late and my wife's asleep, so I just watch them with the sound off, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm trying to figure out what song it is. I'm like, I got no idea. Like, but it's like, it's working. Yeah, it's working. It feels good. And I think that's like the whole core of like just dancing in general, is just like feeling the music. So like, if I want folks to know that they can just let go and feel it, I can't just tell them, hey, let go and have a good time. You know, like I gotta show them how to do it. Yeah.
I actually think one of the things that is profound that you said is that you're a better performer sober, because I think a lot of people would immediately think the opposite, and it doesn't have to be like they're on a stage or something. I mean, people just think I can be relaxed or be me or whatever, take an edge off, and you're saying like, no, I've got to go like deeper, like I've got to be more present, like more authentic, which, you know, alcohol really gets in the way of, right? Yeah. So I think I just find that so interesting.
I think that comes from like a shift like the shift in outlook in general that comes from sobriety. That comes from the way that you approach problem solving, the way that you approach stress and difficulty. Because, man, you have a stressful day, you can't put it off. You can't I'm going to have a beer and relax, and like you. Yep. There's no, like, you just got to deal with your shit.
Yeah. I just find this, because I think this is transcendent to like, to so many things. Like, you know, you don't have to be a performing musician for that to be applicable. Come home from a stressful day of work and,
absolutely,
you know, am I present, engaged with my family or not? Yeah. Or, you know, am I doing my best work? You know, I find that fascinating. I feel like there's so much there. And it's kind of interesting how you describe like the holistic. I mean, it's what even has to take place in you to be able to be sober perhaps. And, you know, all of that plays together, you know.
Honestly, that's like the thing that one of the things I'm most grateful for about this experience as a musician, as an artist or whatever, so far, has been the kind of lessons that I'm learning that can be applied to, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that, I didn't know that being a musician would mean that I had to grow as a human being so damn much. You know?
Yeah.
I thought this was gonna be way easier. Like I thought the music part was gonna be hard. That part, yeah. But it's like, no, it's like the hardest part is like having to be honest with yourself and about your shortcomings and how you can do better and like working to do better, taking those steps, you know? Because it's one thing to just be like, okay, I fucked up. Or like, oh, I was an asshole. It's a whole other thing to be like, okay, what do I need to do to like get to the root of this and be a better person for all the people that are depending on me, be it my family, be it the bandmates, be it the fans. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Wow. Well, we've talked a lot about what has built up to where you are right now today, this moment. I'm curious, just in terms of what you're looking forward to.
Crazy. I'm not anywhere crazy. You know what I mean? I'm just.
It's been awesome.
There's some asshole who like happened to win like a couple of awards and like has a song go viral. Like anybody. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
But I've enjoyed the whole conversation. I mean,
good.
Who like says I'm gonna go to Haiti for 3 months? It's anyways, it's awesome. Yeah. But I am curious, like looking forward to the future. What are some of the things you're looking forward to? And you can answer that like professionally or personally, maybe both, you know. But in terms of the band, or maybe in your personal life, like you guys are working on. I said your second album. Really, it's your first.
Really, it's
full,
the first full length. Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens with that. Where we land with that. How people receive that. But that's very short term. I think. You're supposed to enjoy it's about like the journey, not the destination, right? So like truly, I'm looking forward to all of it, to just the whole damn thing, to being able to, all I want is to be able to like, and I think all anybody wants is to be able to look back at their life at some point and be like, damn, we did the thing, you know?
Yeah.
I want that. I want my kids to be able to I want my kids to want to be able to do what their dad did, rather than my kid. I don't want to be a cautionary tale for my children. I want to be something for them to aspire to.
Wow. Yeah.
You know? And if I can do that, then I did the thing.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. Yep. I usually end by, asking our guests what is inspiring you today. Do you think it's similar to what you just said, or would it be something else? Like what gets you out of bed every day today? What inspires you to work, to write, new music? What is in that category for you?
I'm particularly inspired by the way that this community, Austin specifically, has really rallied around this project and what we've been able to do. And I feel like there's a lot of faith in this project having legs and where we're able to take it.
Yeah.
And that's really inspiring. That makes me want to do better. You know what I mean? It makes me want to be a couple of Black and brown kids from Austin, Texas, repping Darkwave across the country and in Canada next week. You know?
Yeah.
That's inspiring. And I think we'll make everybody proud.
Yeah.
I'm
confident. Yeah.
Folks have faith in us, and that's very inspiring.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've enjoyed every minute of the combo. I've been entertained the whole way. So, seriously, I know you are crazy busy. You're about to, Wednesday, I think you guys are jumping on tour, right?
Yes.
So, appreciate you being here, making time for this. I think people learn a lot, be inspired by a lot.
I appreciate you giving me a little bit of stage lighting, some atmosphere. It's I'm very comfortable.
Doing our best, man. Doing our best. So. For real. Thanks for sitting down. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.